What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm also going to talk about some very important pieces of news that came out for Tesla that are very bullish for the long term, not to mention some new developments on the charts for the broader markets. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer ends very soon in just a couple of weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So right now, Tesla's on a very, very strong uptrend. We are fighting some tough resistance at 400 per share. But we did try to gap up from here. We're going to likely gap up when we open. I'll have to see if Tesla could try to fight and try to break this 400 resistance. It is going to be kind of tough, but so far Tesla's doing a good job, and we are in the green for the pre-market. Now, despite the fact that we are trying to push on Tesla and we're holding up very well, just know that Nvidia is a little bit weaker. We did lose our 50 EMA. So once again, we are coming back down to this lower support. And this happened because of some bad news. And that is what is kind of like offsetting this move for the broader markets. So just keep that in mind. I'll be talking about all these charts in just a minute. Just note that when it comes to Tesla news, you have this bullish catalyst. The first thing is the fact that the Model Q is priced below $30,000 after subsidies to reportedly launch in the first half of 2025. So there's been a lot of talk about how the robotaxi, also known as the Cybercab, could be coming out very, very soon as next year. And that's what's getting investors very hyped up because the capabilities of this are absolutely endless, and what this leads to is going to be incredible. On top of this, there's been a lot of talk about how this is going to be, absolutely incredible. According to many sources reported by Deutsche Bank, we could see the vehicle priced as low as $25,000 after subsidies. So that's amazing news that's been coming out. That's why Tesla's projected to see 20 to 30% growth in 2025. So that's what Benzinga and these different sources are reporting. I'm also starting to see that Musk made a comment about this. He was asked about why they're not necessarily putting a logo on the Cybercab. Musk tweeted, I think right over here, that if the product is special enough, no logo is going to be needed. So he posted this yesterday in the afternoon. I think that he has a good point, right? The Cybercab is going to be very, very huge. I would personally prefer if they put their logo, but if they don't, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference because it is a very, very special product, and it's going to be very, very recognized anyways. Once again, the Model 2 is basically not what's going to be coming out. Just as a reminder, it's going to be the Cybercab instead, and that's fine. I think it's still very, very bullish for Tesla nonetheless. Now there is something else that's worth mentioning about it, and that's the fact that there's not going to be a steering wheel for it or pedals. It's going to be designed to just be fully self-driving. And once again, this will generate a lot of revenue for Tesla. There's a lot of hype about its release, once again, as soon as next year. And next year starts like in just a couple of weeks, by the way, guys. So we're already at the end of 2024. Next year could be the year that we get the release of the robotaxi. That's going to be absolutely wild, and we're getting very close to it. As far as Tesla's news goes, there's also some news coming out that their sales in Australia are sliding a bit. Honestly, guys, I'm not too worried about this. Their sales went down to about 2,540 for the month of November. That's down about 35% compared to last year. But honestly, guys, it's only about 1,000 or a couple thousand sales per month. It's not that big of a deal for Tesla. I think they'll be fine if they could offset this in different locations. I'm only calling this out because I'm seeing a lot of mainstream headlines screaming about this, but I just want to account for the fact that it's not that big of a deal to me. Now, there is some negative news, at least for the broader markets. Nvidia shares are sliding after China has opened an investigation over possible violations of anti-monopoly laws over there. That's not the best of news, at least for them. We'll have to see how things end up going, at least moving forward. Um, there are some headlines involving some kind of like geopolitics. I don't really want to get into the like full details of involving this, but this news is a little bit more negative, at least for them, because this is going to put a lot more pressure on them by the Chinese regulators, and we'll see what kind of investigation they do and how this develops over time. But just not the best news, at least for them moving forward. So that's why this is leading to the share price dipping a little bit more. That could offset other tech stocks. Now, today's Monday, so just know this. At 10 o'clock a.m., we have wholesale inventories. At 11 a.m., we have consumer inflationary expectations. Then at 11:30, we have the 3 and 6 month bill auctions. All of this is going to be kind of minor. There could be some volatility at these times, but for the most part, it's going to be quite minor. Now, for earnings, nothing too significant comes out today except for like Oracle and AI. Then on Tuesday, we have more retail. Wednesday, we have Macy's and Costco. On Thursday, that's just another reminder. And for news about the market, there's not really much else that's coming out that's too crazy. I think I went over the majority of the news so far, so that's fine for now. With that being said, I went over all the news for Tesla. Now let's just talk about the share price. So Tesla has been pushing higher. It did hit the $400 target during the pre-market session. And notice that we peaked very close to about 402, 400 to 402. So I think that it is possible we see Tesla attempt to hit 400 to 402. We'll have to see if you hold above that or not. We did push a little bit more. We were up like 3% already during the pre-market, so it pushed a bit more as we predicted. But now we're going to be watching to see how well we hold above 400. If we can't hold that, there's going to be a risk of us coming back down over here towards 394. If that fails us, we're looking for essentially 389. We were very, very bullish, and I still think Tesla's very bullish nonetheless, but it may take a couple of attempts to try to break that 400 resistance. It is kind of tough right now, but nonetheless, we did hit our target. So we did reach the 400 area. We'll be watching to see if Tesla could hold above 400 by the time we open. So look for a little push when we open, and we'll see how it goes from there. So I think that we're going to try to push for 400. We'll have to see how well it holds up. It might consolidate around 400 to 402. And then if we can't hold above that, we could be retesting 394 or so. Overall, we did a fantastic job at continuing this pump, and I think that 400 once again could be retested. As far as SPY goes, I do see a problem with SPY, so we're very choppy right now during the pre-market, so expect some chop upon open. But we'll have to see if the 609 peak breaks. If we break that, we will remain bullish for 611. If we don't break that peak, if 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 we're stuck here and we don't break past 609, there's going to be a risk of us coming back down to 606. We got to hold that, otherwise this gap gets filled all the way down to 604, and then even like 602 becomes possible. So watch that very carefully. We're going to consolidate upon open, but if 609 is not break, we could be dipping lower to 606 or so. I think we're going to consolidate, and there is that risk of us not breaking it. So be a little bit careful, as it's going to be a tough resistance. Same thing with ES. So notice that on ES, we have something very similar that's essentially going on. We have a very, very tough resistance very close to that 6100 area. And we've been struggling a lot to break past that. So we just have to give this more time to develop. So in my personal opinion, just be very, very patient with ES, and we'll have to see if we, could hold above it. Now, the issue is there could be like a top forming here around the 61, 110 area. If we don't surpass that high, we'll be looking at 60.88 to see if that holds. If it doesn't, there's going to be a risk of us dipping lower towards 60.72 or below. So I think that with this slight divergence and the fact that this high is like holding, we haven't broken past that, we could push a bit and start dipping lower. And if we lose our 20 EMA, we're looking for a dip closer to about the 60, 80 area or below. So just keep that in mind. That's going to be one of the most probable cases, at least for the time being. I'll be watching to see how well we end up holding around that area. For others out there, we also happen to have Bitcoin. Bitcoin is also starting to dip just a bit. We're not doing the best of job at holding above 100,000. We did hit 102,000, only to come a little bit short. So it came up very close to our target, only to reject. So now we have this range to watch for between the 96,000 area and then 102,000, going back and forth and back and forth. We could attempt to retest 100,000, but if we don't break past that, we could reject and start dipping lower. So give this a little bit more time to develop. For others out there, excuse me, we're also looking at Nvidia. Nvidia is gapping down, losing our 50 EMA. So there's going to be a risk of us dipping a little bit lower, closer to about this 138 to 137.5 area. So look for a little bit more downside on Nvidia on the 4 hour to retest 137 to 137.5 ish, around that area. I think we could dip a little bit more, and then we'll have to see if we bounce or not off that support near our 20 EMA. So I'll be watching that. Look for a little bit more potential downside on Nvidia for the time being. So please keep that in mind. For NQ, same thing. We have a tough resistance now at 21,700. We kind of grabbed liquidity here and rejected. We have to see if we can try to push and get back above that. Otherwise, there's going to be a risk of us dipping to about 21,500. So look for a push upon open to about 21,650. If you reject here, we're looking for a dip back down to the 21,500 area. So give it some time to develop. For the QQQ, we have this resistance very close to about this 527.5 area. If we don't hold above that, we could be dipping closer to about the breakout zone. 523.65 could be coming if 525 fails us. So be careful. This is looking like it could pivot just a little bit. Might dip down to the 523s before it tries to bounce. So we'll see about that if we get that bounce. Nvidia dipping could be a little bit more negative, at least for the time being, for the broader markets. So just keep that in mind. Apple's range bound between 242 and about 244. We'll have to see if we can maintain that range, but there is that risk of us dipping a little bit lower if that ends up failing us. So just keep that in mind, guys. For others out there, we have the IWM, also known as the Russell 2000, trying to bounce right here. However, despite the fact that it's bouncing, we did call this out yesterday. We're still technically within this channel. So we'll have to see how well we hold around this area. If we could hold above 240, this may continue to push. If we don't hold 240, this could still dip back down. So watch to see if 240 holds. We're waiting for that very, very closely. For the Coinbase charts, we have been pushing very close to our targets. We came very close to about 244 in the pre-market, so look for an attempt to push there. And if it does not hold above that, we're looking for a dip back down, especially with Bitcoin. So I think this might try to push a little bit to about 344. And if it does not hold, we're going to be looking for a dip back down to about 330. Just keep that in mind just to be safe. For others out there, we also happen to have Amazon showing some weakness. So we did push a little bit higher to about 228. We need to hold above 228. Otherwise, this could be dipping back down to about 225 or below. There's also this gap right here on the daily charts to 220. So if you look at the daily, I'm just going to double check this real quick. If we do pivot right here, we do have this gap, a small gap that kind of formed. There's also another one way down here. So be a little bit careful with Amazon. We'll see if we get back above 228. Otherwise, I do see 225 or below coming. So there is that risk of it kind of churning a bit. Meta should retest the breakout area. We might dip a little bit more towards like 620. We'll see if we bounce off that or not. Overall, it's still on a nice uptrend. For Microsoft, we're struggling to hold above 444, so this is at risk of getting closer to about 440. And then Google, same thing, right? This is going to be dipping closer to about 174.66, if not 173.8. And we'll see if we bounce off those, but there is a risk of some downside. Anyways, that's it for my analysis. I thank you all so much for listening. Just know that as far as Tesla goes, we are very, very bullish. We've done a great job at breaking out. But the issue with Tesla is the fact that, despite the fact that we've been pushing quite nicely, 400 is going to be a very, very tough area. So we'll have to see how well we hold above that. I expect Tesla to continue the push that's on. I think that it will try to retest 400, but we'll see if we hold above it or not. So look for some chop in that area, and we'll give it some time to develop. Anyways, that's it for this one. Thank you for listening, and peace out.